So if you want to grow the biggest, sweetest onions you possibly can, there's a few tips for that. Let me give you some quick steps as to how you can ensure your success in growing big, sweet onions. So this is my row of onions. I've already pulled a few. Let me show you what I've got, and then I'll explain how you can grow the biggest, sweetest onions. That onion right there is 5 inches across, whether you can see that or not. 5 inches. We've got several that size. They are sweet. We're going to look at soil conditions. We're going to look at how to plant. We're going to look at fertilization, water, and then when to harvest. Onions like well-drained soil. They don't want to just sit in water. They can get root rot then, and they don't want to be planted very deep. In the past, I've shown you just the smallest hole you can get to put that little set in there. That's what we call them down here, onion sets. Different parts of the country, they're called different things, but it's just a baby onion, all it is. And you'll just barely put it in there and then pinch it together. You'll only plant the root of the onion and about another 1/2 inch, 1/4 to 1/2 inch. You want the onion to actually grow on top of the ground. You don't want it to be buried. You don't want your soil way up here smothering that onion. I believe it restricts the onion's ability to grow big. And I was told that by a big onion grower. In the ground far enough that if you get a hard wind or hard rain, it's not going to uproot the onion. But not deep. You can see that onion, most of the onion is above ground, just a little bit of the onion is below ground, and of course the roots. So variety is important too. Pick an onion that is a sweet variety. Down here in Texas, we like the 1015 sweets. These are 1015 Ys, which is a yellow onion. Vidalia type onions. Dixondale Farms is a great place to get them. Haas Tools is a great place to get them. So variety is important. First you got to pick a sweet onion to plant. You should start with a pre-plant fertilizer of your choice. The best onions I think I've ever grown, the sweetest onions especially, were just strictly compost. I planted the onion and then I put about 1 inch of compost on top of them. And they got huge and they were very, very sweet. So fertilization is important. You need to fertilize about twice in the onion's growth. What you're looking for is a good leaf growth. So the more leaves you have here on top, the tops of the onion, the bigger the onion is going to grow. Each leaf is a ring of that onion. So you're growing leaves to get good sized onions. So what should you use to fertilize with? Well, this year I burnt mine a little bit. I used 1313 and I burnt a few of my onions. Not all of them, not many of them, but I did burn some. My neighbor says he burnt his a few years ago, and from then on he started using just water-soluble fertilizer. He doesn't put a granular fertilizer on his onions. So I would suggest a good balanced 20-20-20. Haas sells that water-soluble 20-20-20. I should have used it on these instead of that granular because I did burn some of these with that granular, thinking I was going to make bigger onions. So they need to be fertilized about twice during their life, 3 times if you include the pre-fertilizing. Do a pre-plant, fertilize, mix it in with the top 4 or 5 inches of soil, and then when you see it really start to take off, and you can see it's a little bitty thing sticking in the ground, you can tell when it grabs hold and when it starts eating the nutrients. And when you see that, go ahead and hit it with a little bit more balanced fertilizer. Again, be careful, you can burn them. And then onions need water. So make sure your soil is well drained, but they do need a lot of water, especially if you're putting that fertilizer to them. They got to have something to dissolve that fertilizer if you're using granular. So pick a good variety, pick a good fertilizer. Don't use so much that you're going to burn them. Plant shallow, fertilize once or twice during the life of the onion, and water. Now, how do you know when they're ready to pull? Well, I've only got 2 or 3 of mine that are ready to come out of here, and that's this one right here, because the stem has fallen over. When that stem falls over, it's done everything it's going to do. I've also read that you don't really need to fertilize once the stems start getting a little soft. Once they start getting a little soft in there, then they're starting to get at that stage right there where they're done. So once they start getting soft stemmed, then you might as well not fertilize anymore. Don't waste your fertilizer because it's done everything it's going to do. It's gotten as big as it's going to get. You might just wind up making it a little bit hotter by doing that. So harvest when they start falling over, and then you need to lay them out on the ground, preferably not in the rain, but on the ground or in a barn, covered structure, and let them dry before you try to store them. They need to be cured. They need to be dried. So water's important, fertilizer's important, the soil is important, timing is important. Around here in East Texas, most of the big onion growers plant probably in December. But you take a risk in getting a hard freeze, I mean really hard freeze, and some ice and stuff like that, which can kill an onion. I always plant around Valentine's Day, and I harvest around Mother's Day. All these should be ready within a couple of weeks, but usually the last week of May, first week of June, all these will have fallen over, like that one there. I've got one more that's fallen over, and they'll be ready. I can go ahead and pull that one right there if I want to, but I think I'll leave it and see how many more I can get to maturity before I pull. There's another one that's pretty much fallen over, not all the way, and here's one that's fallen over. Not a very large one, baseball size, not softball size, but this one here looks like it's about to fall over. It's wanting to. So when they start falling over, that's when you pull the onions. And I think if you follow those steps, plant them shallow, make sure they've got plenty of water, and you too can grow some of the best onions you've ever grown. We've had so much rain, I haven't put a drip on these onions here, but I do water, hand water, maybe 2-3 times a week. Yeah, I should get the drip, but they're all about to fall over and about to be done, so I just didn't see reason to do drip on them. But big onions, nice onions, sweet onions, that's what everybody wants. Follow those steps and you too can get them. All right, we're gone.